All right, everybody, what is up? Yes, we are doing the video like this today because I don't feel like being on camera today. I was on camera yesterday. I do not feel like being on camera today. But either way, I still wanted to talk about the Met and everything that happened and the theme and the controversy behind it. So let's get into it, right? So the Met happened over the weekend. We already know that. And at first, I was going to do like a regular video where we just, you know, I'm not no fashion girl, y'all already know, but where we just take some of the best, or what I thought were the best dressed, you know, people, and talk about their outfits, and then the worst dressed people and clown their outfits. It's just fun. It's just fun, right? But since, like I just told y'all, I'm not a fashion girl, I saw that the theme was Karl Lagerfeld, a line of beauty. And so I was just like, okay, what is going on? Who is Karl? And I guess I don't know. A lot of people know him. He was extremely famous. I mean, Chanel, all that shit. But like I said, I am not a fashion girl, so I didn't really know what the tea was. But it turns out, surprise, surprise, I mean, this is the entertainment industry after all. Karl was a goddamn bigot. And I'm not talking about no like mildly insensitive comments, right? We're talking about full-blown bigot. Like, I'm so sorry, girl. That's what it is. Right? So I'm looking at these pictures. And at first, before I even did any research on Karl or knew what the tea was, I was just like, oh, this is a Met. And I was just like, for example, Jeremy Pope ate this. I love his silhouette in this outfit. But, you know, just knowing the crazy kinds of things that Karl has said, like as a black person rolling up with this man's face on your shit, it's just like, I had to rethink all of it. Does that make sense? Like the girls were out here eating Carissa Aid. People, y'all was dragging Lil Nas X. Y'all was dragging Lil Nas X. Then Doja dressed up as Karl's cat, it seems like, and obviously it was a play on Doja Cat's name. But either way, let's just get, so it's like, you see these things happening, and at first I was like, oh girl, this is so, like, these girls are out here dressing up. And by the time I finished researching Karl and the things that he believed and said, I just did not want to talk about anybody's outfit, because I'm like, I don't think that anybody, like, this man should not have been celebrated at all. And, you know, even if I did have the power or fame to be able to go to this event, just based off of the theme, I would not have stepped foot in that shit. Like, I'm so sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. But the thing that's crazy is that there's so many people like this in Hollywood or entertainment, the music industry as a whole. It's just like, they're huge names. They've created such, you know, gigantic waves in pop culture, and they're so like respected, but a lot of them are just really terrible people, and Karl was one of them. Now, I'm gonna be mainly pulling from this Time magazine article entitled "Why the Met's Karl Lagerfeld Theme is Controversial." I'm gonna skip around and go down here. The discourse surrounding Lagerfeld has reached a fever pitch in the time following the announcement that the late designer was the inspiration for this year's Met theme. Of course, Karl Lagerfeld, a line of beauty, like I said before, an exhibit that will feature 150 of Lagerfeld's designs alongside his original sketches. Lagerfeld's known for being at the helm of Chanel for over 3 decades. Of course, he was designing for Fendi and also had his own label. He had a sharp tongue, and we're gonna get into the kinds of things that he was saying. While the fashion industry has long been critiqued for its lack of inclusivity, especially when it comes to larger bodies or race, Lagerfeld had no shame in deriding bodies, particularly women's bodies. Though he also struggled with his own body issues, an experience he documented with a 2005 book titled The Karl Lagerfeld Diet. Lagerfeld frequently offered unsolicited critiques of other public figures like Adele, who he called too fat, and Heidi Klum, who he called too heavy, while mocking movements like body positivity and making outrageous claims like the fact that he thought that anorexia was not as dangerous as junk food and television. What the fuck is going on? Or that fashion is the healthiest motivation for losing weight. In one particularly cruel instance, he told the German magazine Focus in a 2009 interview that, quote, "No one wants to see curvy woman," in a response to the news that another magazine was planning on no longer using models in their images, but real women. He said, "You've got fat mothers with their bags of chips sitting in front of the television? What the fuck?" And saying that thin models are ugly. He said, "The world of beautiful clothing is about dreams and illusions. However, it wasn't just fat phobia that Lagerfeld was intent on broadcasting to the entire world. He also had a history of saying racist, misogynist, and Islamophobic comments in a 2009 interview with Harper's Bazaar. He said that Coco Chanel wasn't ugly enough to be a feminist, while in 2010 he was roundly critiqued for putting supermodel Claudia, whatever her name is, in blackface and yellowface. Jeez. For the German, jeez, like, why y'all celebrating it? Like, why y'all celebrating that? I mean, I guess because the fashion industry literally is all of this wrapped. Like, he represents the entire fashion industry. Like, this is the kind of shit y'all live for, obviously. So yeah, that happened in some German magazine, and in 2017 on a French talk show, he apparently condemned his native country, Germany's acceptance of refugees from Muslim majority countries, claiming with bizarre logic that the migrants were an affront to Holocaust victims. Let me read you this from another article real quick. So this particular instance, he was attacking Chancellor Angela Merkel for opening Germany's borders to migrants. He said this, he said, "One cannot, even if there are decades between them, kill millions of Jews so you can bring millions of their worst enemies in their place." Honestly, I think he was talking about a lot of like black and brown migrants in general, because he said this too. "I know someone in Germany who took a young Syrian and after 4 days said the greatest thing Germany invented was the Holocaust." That's what he said. That's what he said. That's what he said. The article goes on to say that he also disavowed the Me Too movement. I want to read this from another article. He said, "I'm fed up with it." He's talking about the Me Too movement here. He said, "What shocks me most in all of this are the starlets who have taken 20 years to remember what happened, not to mention the fact there are no prosecution witnesses." So the article goes on here, and then we can kind of wrap it up pretty soon. He also said this. He said, "I read somewhere that now you must ask a model if she is comfortable with posing. It's simply too much. From now on, as a designer, you can't do anything. It's unbelievable. If you don't want your pants pulled about, don't become a model. Join a nunnery. There'll always be a place for you in the convent. They're recruiting even." And this last one here is from the Associated Press. In a 2010 Vice interview, he spoke against same-sex marriage, particularly as it pertains to two men. This is what he said. He said, "For me, it's difficult to imagine one of the papas at work and the other at home with the baby. How would that be for the baby? I don't know. I see more lesbians married with babies than I see boys married with babies. And I also believe more in the relationship between mother and child than in that between, father and child." And apparently in 2013, while supporting same-sex marriage, Lagerfeld said he was less keen on same-sex couples being allowed to adopt. So you see what I'm saying? So it's just like, I don't know. I'm just thinking about how I would think if I was even close to being in those circles that got invited to the Met or whatever. Like that is not within the realm of it's just not within the realm of my reality, right? But if I was, and then I'm like, okay, they invited me to the Met, and this is the theme. Okay, let me look up this motherfucker. And this is all the shit that he said. I'm not going to the event. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to the event. I'm just not going. And so I think that's what kind of changed my mind about, like, I don't know. I was going to kiki with y'all about the outfits and all this shit. And yeah, girl, and who matched the theme and who did this and who didn't match the theme and all that shit. And then I look up the theme and it's this motherfucker. And maybe I haven't looked at the themes of these other, the other times the Met happened, and it has always been this crazy and problematic because it's the fashion industries, right? So granted, maybe that's what has happened, is that it's always been this fucked up and crazy, and I just now, or because it's a topic that people are really talking about and circulating articles about, that I'm like, oh shit. But the entertainment industry as a whole is so deeply problematic. And then it's like, they can't even, I don't know. It seems like I said before, it doesn't matter what people do or have done a lot of times, as long as someone can say, oh, well, they carried X, Y, and Z brand. They carried the Chanel brand. They did this. They, changed pop culture. They moved the culture in this particular way. And it's just like, yeah, okay, they did all that shit. And they was a fucking raging, racist, misogynist, sexist, homophobe ass motherfucker. Like, what? I don't know. But I think that is, when you're talking about the business of the entertainment industry, I think that is what kind of keeps people very cautious about it. Because it's like, okay, how much do people expect you as an entertainer to ignore all these weirdo abusers or destructive people, or, isms and like, how much of the bullshit and toxicity are you expected to ignore to quote unquote ascend, or to quote unquote, move your career forward? And is this how you want to do it? I don't know. So many, but it's not just the Met, it's the entire industry, like I said. But this one was especially heinous to me, because I feel like there's so many designers. there's so many designers out there who haven't done none of this shit, who could be celebrated. You see what I'm saying? And we just don't have to celebrate this fucking crazy, evil, mean white man. Like, no matter how many quote unquote accomplishments he even had under his belt. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know. And it's just like the girls, the celebs, they looked cute out there. Some of them looked cute. Some of the men was, trying to do their thing. But I think at the end of the day, it just, this being the theme and this kind of thing being celebrated, it just puts a bad taste in my mouth. And it reminds me of how many abusers are still out here in the entertainment industry as a whole, and being allowed to do whatever the fuck they want. And it's like, people get really pissed when you bring it up, especially and it's like, you could improve your place of work. You could improve your industry. You could improve, the experience of people working in this industry if we had open and honest conversations about these destructive people in these industries. But if this is what your industry is completely built off of, then I can't see why you bitches do not give a fuck. And I don't think, like I said, I don't think it's like, I think the people who are really to blame are the big name decision makers. But I also think that if we don't have any kinds of discussions about this shit, it's going to continue to, things like this are going to continue to fester, and people who are bigots like that will feel empowered. They'll feel like, okay, well, I can continue to say and do what the fuck I want and get away with it, and have a successful career, and also be celebrated after I done passed. And it's like, and I think that's one of the many things that keeps so much toxicity in the entertainment industry. I don't know. Tell me what y'all think about this shit. It was very wild when I start looking at, and I knew this man's face. I just didn't know, his T. I didn't know that was his name. And I didn't know, how toxic this motherfucker was. And they over here celebrating his ass. I don't know how to feel, girl. I don't know how to feel. But like I said, I will not be naive. I know that it's the entire music industry. Anyway, let me know what y'all think. Thank y'all so much for watching. And make sure that you have a good goddamn evening.
Push queen, coming through, we making niggas switch teams. I'm feeling